Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. It's your girl Reina on Rebuild. Today's topic, or today's video, as you can tell from the title of the video, this video is dedicated to any African. If you're watching this video and you live in the United States, regardless of the state that you're in, I just want to have an honest dialogue with y'all because it's been, I would say, with the current climate and with everything that's going on, and yes, I'm talking about the George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, I thought it would be nice to kind of have an open letter to Africans in the diaspora, specifically in the United States. So before I start this video, I'm going to start with a few disclaimers here. And the first disclaimer is the fact that this might be a long video. I might try to shorten it, but this might be a long video because it is heartfelt and it's not scripted or whatever. Okay, my second disclaimer, and I'm looking at my phone because I had to put down some notes, is that I have only been in the US for about 8 years. Okay, so I might not be qualified to speak of the outrage, and I don't fully understand the pain and the outrage that our fellow African Americans are going through in this time period. Because I've been here 8 years, I can empathize, I can tell you I'm angry, but I still put a disclaimer out there that I haven't been in the US long, but that does not mean that I cannot empathize. Okay, the third disclaimer is just from conversations with my friends here and there. This topic is I'm really passionate about this topic, and I really want to apologize if my approach or if my delivery of this open letter becomes too aggressive. I tend to be very passionate about these issues, as you can understand. And again, yes, I'm unqualified. So let's start talking about this this topic. We've all heard Black Lives Matter. Okay, and I want to start with just talking about the stereotypes that are there between Africans and African Americans, right? So from the Africans side, right, and for my fellow Kenyans who are back home, there's typically this type of stereotype that, you know, African Americans are, you know, they don't go to school, you know, they are incompetent, or they are they're lazy. And I'm so sorry that I have to use those verbs to describe the stereotype, but there is a stereotype. We have to be honest about it. There's a stereotype about Black Americans, as we typically refer to them. And if you have that kind of mindset about African Americans, I would want to challenge you to change it, or to learn more about them. And you will find out that they are more than that. If you live with them, and if you actually, you know, worship with them, since we are, you know, most of my subscribers are believers. If you actually live with them and you get to know them and you understand their heart, they fit far from that stereotype. Okay, and now going back into the stereotype from African Americans to Africans, there's this notion that they get the perception, or they get the vibe from us that we are better, like we're first class Africans. We know where we came from, we know our mother country. You know, we don't call Africa the motherland because we know the country that we come from. So there's that stereotype that is that they perceive as, you know, they tend to think of themselves as better. So we have to be open about these stereotypes. And something else that my friend, who I think I will bring on the channel to just have a conversation, there is that stereotype of all they see about Africa is the wilderness or forests or safaris and whatever. And most of them tend not to even know that we have thriving cities, economies, you know, modernized cities that exist in Africa. So these are stereotypes that we have to first of all acknowledge and then move past. So now that we've talked about stereotypes, let's go into talking about what happened about a week or a week and a half ago. If you're an African in the United States and this issue of police brutality does not move you either to tears, to anger, if you don't empathize, if you're not empathetic of the climate of the country right now, I would really want to urge you to educate yourself. I have plenty of African friends in US, and I have noticed there is some sort of complacency, or I would say lack of, urgency about what's going on. And it really bothers me. It bothers me because, number one, thinking about Black Lives Matter, and as an African, wanting to understand and voice these issues, because I'm not African American, most people think that you're trying to fit in. When in reality, when you walk out that door, no one is going to understand the difference between you being an African or you being an African American. When you walk out that door, what people see you as is Black. So we're not trying to fit in. We are trying to educate ourselves on about the country that we live in. It's very important to understand where you live and circumstances that might lead to an unfortunate event. It doesn't matter if you're African. It does not matter if you're African American. Fact is, when you walk out that door, you're Black. So I want you to think about that for a moment. I want you to think about that. Because I have had this told to me also, you're trying so hard to fit in. No, I'm trying to understand the dynamics of where I live. And unfortunately, the fact is, or the truth is, where we live in America, if you are Black, you are automatically criminalized. That's the truth. That's the truth. So I want to dispel that, and I want to be vocal about it. I'm not trying to fit in. You have to understand where you live. And I'll tell you for a fact, I knew I was Black when I came to America. When you've lived your whole life with people that look like you, the color of your skin doesn't matter. Until you come to a place where not a lot of people look like you. And I came to California in the suburb that was just full of Caucasian folks. So I automatically understood that I am Black. And it's unfortunate that I have to think like that, because I did stand out. I stood out. So I want to encourage Africans who are not moved, Africans who live out here in the US, if you're not moved, or if you're not understanding of the pain and the anger that African Americans have, and the protests and the rioting and the violence, if it doesn't move you, I would want to challenge you to educate yourself. Because once you educate yourself and you understand the systemic oppression that these people have gone through, then you'll be empathetic. When you understand that a system that's meant to protect them is actually built to oppress them, then you will understand. When you understand that when you walk out that door, they don't know if you're African or African American, it still applies to you, then you will pay attention, then you will listen, then you will understand the pain and the anger and the anguish that they have in these streets causing riots. I had to have a very hard conversation with my parents about this. And this is something that it moves them to tears. You know, when they're comfortable back home, and we have our own issues back home, but they see this global news about an individual who was killed live due to the fact that they forged a check. If they are moved to tears, and if they are moved to want to, have some sort of mercy and pity on what African Americans face day to day, if you live out here and you don't have the same, I would like to challenge you to educate yourself. something else that I need to share with everyone. Us as Africans, first generation Africans, we know where we come from. We have a place called home. African Americans don't have that. They came here as slaves. They're being persecuted in their own home. As much as if things, hit the fan, I have the option of, you know what, I can go home. They don't. This is their home. And they're reminded every single day that it's not, due to the racism and the bigotry that's rampant in the justice system, in people that they work with, everywhere. So I would really, really, really want you to take a seat back and understand the pain that they may be going through. Now, I've said this again, I'm not African American. I know I'm black in America though. It's an injustice to myself if I don't educate myself on the history of everything that has happened to them leading up to this point where you see them rioting, looting, having protests. They're angry and they're mad, rightfully so. Rightfully so. Because if you start thinking about merchandise and, oh, there's a better way to go about it. They've been in the streets about this years on end. You all know about Martin Luther King. They've been marching and rioting ever since. It's still the same. It's still the same. And I know there's always this notion of, especially when you see these videos and you see maybe an interaction between a police officer and maybe a person of color. And you say, oh, they shouldn't have reacted like that. They should have complied. I want to tell you that I was one of those people that used to say that until we got the cops called on us here because we were being too loud. I am educated. I know how to carry myself in situations where I need to be patient, I need to be calm, I know how to do that. But when I tell you, when that cop showed up at the door, I could not control what was going on within myself. I was fearful because when you see or when you're in that situation, there's an adrenaline rush that's within you. And I found myself, I automatically was just talking. I was talking because I was so scared. I've seen everything that happens in, like police protection. I just kept talking and we were so scared because we weren't doing anything. So for those who say that, they don't know how to comply, if you are in that situation, you do not, until you're in that situation, you will not know how you're going to respond. My gosh, this is 13 minutes. I am so sorry. But I wanted to educate because I saw a video of an African woman in DC talking about black people not being oppressed. And I just had such a disdain for the ignorance that we have as Africans out here in America. Because regardless of where you come from, this color of your skin sometimes determines how you're going to be treated. So, but thank you. That's all I had to say for now. I will catch you on the flip side. Remember, you're never too tainted to witness, and I'll catch you on the next video.